All right, let's talk about something that sounds almost too good to be true. We're going to dive into a pretty wild Forex strategy today, one that claims to do what every trader dreams of, turning a losing trade into a win. We're going to lay out the exact roadmap for how it works so you can see a whole new way to look at the market with some serious confidence. So let's get started.
I mean, it's the question, right? The one every single trader asks themselves, probably after a rough day. Can you really save a bad trade and just flip the script? Well, the strategy we're breaking down today says absolutely. And look, let's be real. This is the fear that's really driving that question, isn't it? It's that awful feeling in your stomach, that risk of a total wipeout, of losing your entire account. And that's exactly what this strategy we're digging into is designed to fight head on. So what's the main tool we're going to use to tame that risk? It's something called Forex hedging. Now, you've probably heard the term before, but trust me, we're about to look at it in a whole new and very powerful way. Okay, so what is hedging really? At its heart, it's all about protection. You can think of it like buying insurance for your trade. You basically open an opposite trade to shield yourself from big losses if the market suddenly moves against you. The cool part is your original trade stays open the whole time. All right, enough with the theory, let's get practical. We're going to walk through the step-by-step roadmap. Now, for our example, we'll be looking at the GBP/USD 5-minute chart. But just remember, you can apply this logic to pretty much any currency pair out there. So here's the initial setup. And yeah, it's pretty ambitious. We're looking at a 1 to 10 risk-to-reward ratio. What does that mean? Well, with a 0.1 lot size, you're risking just 5 pips. That's $5 to potentially make 50 pips, or $50. It looks like a classic high-reward long shot, right? But there's a twist. Okay, so how does this actually work? It's a 3-step dance. First, you set up a pending order, let's say a buy. Step 2, right away, you set up the opposite pending order, a sell, with the exact same settings. That's your hedge. And now for step 3, the secret sauce. If that first buy trade hits its stop loss, you don't just walk away. No, you jump right back in with another buy trade, but, and this is key, you multiply the lot size by 1.5. Now this is where the magic happens. Let's see how a small win can completely erase a loss. We're going to walk through what happens when that first trade goes south, and believe me, it will. How does that little multiplier trick actually save the day? All right, so let's play this out. Your first buy trade hits its stop loss. Boom, you're down $5. And at that exact moment, your sell trade kicks in and goes live. Now, for most traders, this is that all too familiar moment of frustration, right? But with this strategy, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. And here's where you see the real power of that multiplier. Your new buy trade is at a 0.15 lot size. Because your position is bigger now, you don't need that massive 50-pip home run anymore. All you need is a tiny little 10-pip pullback, and your whole situation flips from a loss into a profit. So let's look at the numbers. That second bigger buy trade catches that 10-pip move. That makes you $15. Now that $15 does a lot of work. First, it completely wipes out the $5 loss from your first failed trade. Then, it covers the $5 loss from closing out your active sell hedge. And when the dust settles, you're left with a $5 net profit. You just literally turned a losing trade into a winner. Okay, I know what you're thinking. What's the catch? I mean, what if the market doesn't give you that nice little 10-pip pullback? What if it just rips 50 pips in one direction, just smashing through every single one of your stop losses? Well, that's the worst case scenario, and we need a plan for it. In this nightmare scenario, your buy trades just keep getting stopped out one after another with bigger and bigger lot sizes. The damage on that side adds up to a painful $113. But remember that sell trade you set up at the very beginning? It's been quietly running in the background this whole time, and it just hit its 50-pip take profit. That's a clean $50 in your pocket. So when you do the final math, that $50 profit from the winning side really softens the blow. Your total loss isn't that scary $113. It's actually $63. And that's the key. It's a managed loss. It stings, sure, but it's not an account killer. So what's the next move? Simple. You don't panic, you stick to the plan. You immediately place an opposite buy trade. Why? To hedge or lock in that $50 profit you just made on the sell. You protect your winnings. And then you just reset the board and start the whole process over from scratch. Now, I know this might seem kind of complicated, but here's why this strategy actually has a long-term edge. The logic behind it all comes down to simple probability, a basic truth about how markets move. Let's break down the numbers. The whole strategy is basically a bet, a very high probability bet. You're betting that the market is way, way more likely to pull back by just 10 pips than it is to rocket 50 pips in a straight line with no breather. And because that's usually true, the source for the strategy claims an 80% win rate for that standard recovery we saw, and only a 20% chance of hitting that worst-case scenario. Okay, let's put this to the test and see if it's actually profitable in the long run. We're going to simulate 10 trades using that 80-20 probability we just talked about. So imagine 8 of those trades are normal, standard wins, and 2 of them are those ugly, worst-case losses. First step, let's calculate the damage from those 2 worst-case trades. We already know how this plays out. Each one gives us that big $113 loss on one side, but also a $50 profit on the other. So for those 2 losing scenarios, your total gross loss adds up to $226. But remember, you also banked and protected $100 in profit from the winning side of those same trades. So that leaves you with a total net loss of $126 from your 2 bad trades. Okay, so we've tallied up all the losses. Now for the good part. What about the other 8 winning trades? Let's calculate the total profit we've built up from those. So let's see how the profits add up. Remember those 8 standard wins? Each one of those brought in a net profit of $5. So 8 times 5 gives us $40. Then you add in the $100 that we already banked and protected from the winning side of our 2 losing trades. That gives us a grand total profit pool of $140. And this is the bottom line. You take your total profit pool, that's $140, and you subtract the net loss from your worst trades, which was $126. The final result? Even after taking 2 of the worst possible hits, you still walk away with a net profit of $14. It proves that, over time, this system holds up. So what's the big idea to walk away with? It's this really fascinating kind of backwards concept, right? We're using trades that seem almost impossible to win, not because we ever expect them to hit their target. No, we're using them as a tool, as a framework, to cash in on something far more likely, those small, reliable market pullbacks. It's a completely different way of looking at the board and finding an edge where you'd least expect it.